Boom. Done.
Run VT.
Clicked.
We're done. I haven't given you shit, Tom, about your Skaven comment from last week. I go away for 1 week and you're coming out with that shit about anyone can blame Fauna with Skaven.
I genuinely thought
he has one good match when his Roger behaved on the turn 1 and he smashed a couple of my players out with a blitzer and his Roger, and then all of a sudden the world falls into place. Should I say?
Exactly. I'm trying to find all my wooden spoons to get stirring with.
I genuinely thought that at some point between last week's episode going out and now when we're recording this one, that Scott, you would just come to me and Tom and be like, right, next week's topic is we're going to go over everything that you said that was just wrong, and we're just going to I'm just going to correct you on everything that you said.
I did like David's comments about some of his comments, but others, and I was listening to it, and when you mentioned loom bands, I could have done time at that point. I still can. On the positive, on this weekend's matches, no one had loom bands. Hallelujah, brothers and sisters.
No loom bands. It was nice to see, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I've got enough loom bands to make a bloody puppet. Anyway, they're not even mine. It's just like picking them off the table.
Or maybe even a star player. That's it.
Oh yeah, that's my next.
What did you say that for pity's sake?
The loom band,
loony loom band. Yeah, someone stretches him and pings him across the pitch in a 2D. Look, I'm stop. You've got me thinking about it now. So
it's like either you get +1 strength, but if you're playing against Scott, it's +5. Yeah.
I think once per turn you can just change its color and claim it's a completely different skill.
Yeah. or do that plan? You just keep adding an extra loom band.
Yeah, you just add another one each turn.
I know where I'm going to shove that white pen that we use. Anyway, play the intro.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Dice Please, the bite-sized Blood Bowl podcast, brought to you by the people at Blood Bowl Live. My name is Chris, and I am joined once again by the wonderful Mr. Scott Bryant. Scott, what's your pie filling of choice?
Steak and kidney.
Lovely. And also,
by the way, just no. Before we go any further, this is the loom band.
How have I opened a can of worms already?
We're going down the condiment. We're going down the condiment rabbit hole. But this is a better thing. Just to clarify for all our listeners, everyone in the NDP universe, a pie is not some stew with a puff pastry lid. A pie, are we agreed? A pie is a full enclosure of pastry.
Yep.
Anyone else is wrong. Let's just move on, and come the revolution, you will be shot. Let's move on and go back. Steak and kidney for me. Tom, what's yours?
Apple and blackberry.
Curveball, he went sweet, see.
Joining us also is Mr. Tom Huffle. Thank you for that pie choice, Tom. Incredible. I quite like a kind of chicken and vegetable with a good gravy. Puff pastry, please, not short crust. That's a whole different argument we can get into. Anyway, moving on from the thing that will comfortably be the most talked about of our podcast this week. This week we are we're going full Shakespeare with a tale of two tournaments. This weekend was the Suffolk Subterranean Showcase down in Suffolk, no surprise. And it was also the 5th edition of StrangleBowl up in Leicester. Tom went to the Subterranean Showcase. I went to StrangleBowl. And what better opportunity than to tell the world about our different experiences at these two tournaments. Two very different tournaments for a number of reasons, but two very competitive days that I think it sounds like we both had there. So that's what we're going over today. Were you at the Subterranean? Were you at StrangleBowl? Listen up, because we're going to tell you about how we got on.
Okay, how we're going to do this one, NDP fans, for today. As I was at neither, and as I've come back from a week away into what just seems anarchy, it's like Lord of the Flies, but with dice. What we're going to do for today's episode is we're going to talk to each coach in particular. So we'll talk to Tom, talk to Chris, talk to Tom, talk to Chris. So it is an homage to the Chuckle Brothers. But what we're going to do is have a quick update for them in terms of their round one. So we'll talk about Tom's round one in less than 60 seconds. Then we'll talk about Chris's round one in less than 60 seconds. So, gentlemen, you have been warned. And then we'll go to Tom 2, Chris's 2, Tom 3, Chris's 3. We're also going to then finish off with what were the top 3 learnings. So, gentlemen, just get thinking to answer the following question. I can be a better Blood Bowl coach by something you've learned about yourself or the way you'll play, or something you've learned that other coaches do far better than you. You can't use rolling dice as the answer.
I can't wait for Tom's answer.
And also, I'd like to, we'll come back at the end then to understand both of your tournaments had special star players. So we had for both of them, for the Suffolk Subterranean, for the StrangleBowl as well, and we'll talk about those. So without further ado, without further delay, let's go to the man, the myth, the next Suffolk MP for Stowmarket, the sauce maker's delight himself. No, it's not Chris Coe, it's Tom. Tom, tell us about your round one, 60 seconds, go.
Yeah, so Suffolk Subterranean was an excellent event hosted by Justin. So first of all, thank you, Justin. 32 players played. My first match was against Snotlings. So I took with me Necromantic Horror for the benefit of the jury, and I got convincingly trounced on that side of things.
Can you describe for the advert, the Mr. Listener and Mrs. Listener out there, when you describe it as trounced, what was the exact score, Tom?
2-0 to
I wouldn't say 2-0's a trouncing. That's not too bad.
I had quite a few casualties though. So the pump wagon, 2 trolls, and also Morg were playing. So it was the fact was that the big guys were absolutely obliterating a lot of my players. I also got a number of regen fails, which didn't really help the situation either. So it was a lesson learned on how to play against a team that you thought, I can have this. Those Snotlings are annoying little gits. They don't die.
I hate them so much.
Yeah. So yeah. So, bad start to start off with.
and on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being apocalyptic, 10 being amazingly wonderful, utopian bliss, how did the dice rolls perform?
Oh, I'd probably say roughly a 3 to start off with.
So better than usual then.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Yeah. Were you keeping a tally of your ones this week?
I wasn't, unfortunately. I should have done.
Sorry. You call yourself a professional Blood Bowl podcaster and you can't even write down how many ones I rolled?
I didn't have any paper with me.
You didn't go to a Blood Bowl tournament with a pen and a piece of paper, or at least a pencil?
You see what happens when I give Scott a little bit of power to run. He's tearing us a new one.
The People's Republic of New Dice, please.
Standards, gentlemen, standards. Your Blood Bowl podcast expects. Okay, Tom, 2-0, no ones, 3 out of 10 on the dice. Fabulous. Chris, you're at StrangleBowl over in the world to Leicester. Obviously, you had an emotional, romantic experience with another fellow coach from Aardvarks and Dragons on the way there, which is something to talk about in your own time. Although if you do want to share with the audience, please do. How was your first game? Who were your opposition? What was the score? Were you emotionally scarred?
I wish I was in a relationship where sharing a car with someone was a romantic, emotional experience. It really lowers the bar and makes things a lot easier. First game for me was against Halflings. I had messaged other people who were going to this tournament about the kind of teams that I didn't want to face, and Halflings were one of the ones that I did not want to face. really did not want to face them at all, even in a little bit, because the Master Chef always kind of terrifies me. But luckily in this game, the Master Chef didn't really do a lot. It didn't take any rerolls in the first half. It only took one reroll in the second. And it was a really interesting game. The halflings kind of powered forwards, got to just before the end zone, tried to stall out, and it took a tree to take root and a Croxagore to double rush to mark it, to put a prehensile tail on that player, to stop them scoring, making it 0-0 at halftime. And then the second half was really close. I think I had 2 or 3 turns in a row where I had to roll about 6 dice in a row, and the 6th dice failed me for the final dodge to get out and get cleared to score. And then my opponent managed to get the ball down, and I managed to, again, had to kind of run a Saurus down there to mark a player stalling, who then was had to dodge out without a team reroll or a dodge reroll because of tackle. So it could have, depending on what time you tuned in, it could have flipped either way. A draw, possibly kinder on me than my opponent, but a really fun game against a really nice opponent. Who I think went on and had some other sort of good games in the day. Shout out to Charles Edwards, my opponent, for that game, and thank you for a very good game.
Fine speech. Good evening, Charles. Did the halflings take any star players?
Deep Root.
Okay.
Yeah, Deep Root and 2 trees. So it was again a scenario where I've got, my nice beefy lizards, but I'm kind of scared that they're going to get absolutely slammed. And I think I did set up with some skinks on the line, and chose to receive first so that I could straight away just dodge those skinks out the way, and sort of not have anyone in too close contact. And he was he was actually quite good at sort of when I had things I needed to do, giving me a little bit of guidance on the way, which sometimes you don't get at NAF tournaments because people are so competitive and want to, it affects their rating and stuff. But he was quite good at being like, oh, actually, what about this? What about that? And yeah, it was very helpful.
Okay, so you've made a friend, you've got a draw. Looking good so far. So, Tom, let's talk about then the Suffolk Subterranean round 2. So you've had a bit of a frustrating opener, shall we say, against everybody's nemesis and annoyance. Oh, Snotlins, the pump wagon, and all of the other goodness thrown at you as well. Who were you playing in turn 2? How did it go? Were the dice any better or worse than before?
So I was playing for the very first time ever Shambling Undead. So I've never played against them. So it was an interesting matchup. I got no experience against them. Plus, also, my dice just came into their own to the point that my opponent literally was like, seriously, what? Just try some different dice. So I got my big bag of dice out and proved that they're all crap.
When your opponent tells you to swap, it's got bad, hasn't it?
Yeah,
like your opponent is watching you play, watching you fail all these rolls, it all going well for them, and he's gone, swap them round.
It was, but on an interesting note, it was one of those games where he had a lot of all the ghouls, the 2 mummies, and zombies, and it was a real kind of insight, because, and you must kind of appreciate this, Chris, with your lizardmen, where I had a variety of different positionals, and it was one of those things where you're playing lots of different positionals, all have got little special tricks and everything like that. But the fact that you've got a standard minimal set of the same pieces can really play to your advantage.
Yeah. It's one of the rules of the Chris Coe lizard setup. It's just lizards, big guys, block, next.
Yeah.
It does give you less to think about. It kind of, you're focused on one thing. I mean, I've moved away with this tournament, and then with 2 tournaments I've got coming up, I've moved away from all block. I've sort of seen another world. But even then, I've got Saurus, I've got Skinks, I've got 1 Chameleon, and I've got 1 Croxagore. There is not a lot to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was that case of like, oh, if only I had another same player as this one just to back it up, it would be so much useful. So yeah, that was a lesson learned on that one. Final score on that one was 2-0 again.
Wow. Okay. So 2-0. Consistency. That's not a bad thing. So let's look at positives we can all build on together. Come on, brethren. Chris. I know, clutching at straws. If you were here, Tom, I'd give you a hug, but I'm not. And hey, legal requirements. So, Chris, you've faced the halflings. You've had a few rushes and put yourself in a tackle position to stop any dodge outs and all that shenanigans. Tell us about your second match. Did you make a new friend? Did you get their name and phone number? Did you win? What happened?
I did not win. I drew once again against a Orc team, coach Mike Aston. Hi, Mike, if you're watching. It was an interesting game. There were more Orcs at this tournament than any other team. I think there were 9 Orc teams at this tournament, and it was 2 big walls of flesh slamming against each other for 2 hours. Is what this game was.
I'm just laughing at Tom laughing. It's like a carry-on film euphemism, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's
I'm expecting someone who's listening on the train to accidentally have their Bluetooth headphones disconnect exactly at that point, and
just 2 big walls of flesh.
I can look and I can see the Sony Award walking out the door already.
Hey, we've got to be riskier if we want those naughty podcast awards. we've got to start talking about slamming flesh. Anyway,
okay, you're slamming flesh in the middle of a pitch. That's good news. And
so
you and Mike, evening, Mike.
Yeah, it was a good first half. Got a touchdown relatively early. Had to do a double rush to get it because I didn't quite feel safe enough to try and stall any longer. My opponent then, I put my Wall of Saurus and Croxagore up, and he was struggling to break through it. He was not making much progress to break through, and I'd managed to remove some of his players. But a Croxagore got a double both down, and left a big hole in the middle of the pitch that all those Orcs just marched down, and I couldn't get the players back quick enough. He then sort of based the players. I couldn't kind of protect enough against it, so it was 1-1. Second half, I think I was a little bit safer, especially with the Croxagore, having them in the right position and having, again, just a big wall for him to try and break through. He didn't really have the edge to, he has to punch his way through, and they're all strength 4. And I think by the time we got to turn 6 or 7, he was then actually, I think by turn 7, he actually took a step backwards. And I said, and I looked at it and I said, okay, so I don't think you can score now. And he said, no, I'm not getting through that wall. I now need to make sure you cannot get this ball and score yourself. I'm going to have to play for the draw. So it was quite a frustrating game. It was an exhausting game. I don't know if either you guys have had this, where you're like, games where you either win loads or lose loads kind of fly by. When it's just a grind, and this was just a wall of players in the middle of the pitch grinding for 2 hours. It's exhausting. You're always thinking of, is there any combination of this that gets me a breakthrough? And it never did. And it was the most tiring game of the day. I was absolutely shattered by the end of it. So much to kind of think about, but a really good player. And I was pleased that I came out of it still with a 50-50 record. I wanted to leave the tournament with a 50% win record, and 2 draws is a 50% win record. So I was sort of a bit nervous for game 3, but happy that I'd kind of maintained that level.
Excellent. Well, just hold on to those nerves for a little bit longer. Let's jump back from the wonder of the Midlands back to the east coast of Suffolk. Tom, 2-2 losses. You're learning a few things. You're playing some new teams, Snotlings and Undead, who you haven't necessarily played before. Who did you play in round 3? Look, Chris has had enough already. He's just leaving the podcast. He's going.
I'm preparing for what's about to happen.
Okay, so Tom, round 3.
Yeah.
Who did you play?
Round 3, I played against Norse, and I played against a familiar foe of Jack Hunt, who's in our league. I played him twice in our league last season. He is a very strong player. He likes to bash things about, and quite literally, he did. He took my team to task on that. Just couldn't get through him. Just every time I tried to do something, just didn't pay off. My werewolves just like to frenzy push people around rather than actually do any particular damage. Again, a predictable 2-0 loss.
Consistency.
Yeah.
Yep, consistent.
Breeds contempt, as they say, isn't it?
They do say that, yes.
And so yeah, it was. But by that time, it'd been a long day on that basis. There'd been unfortunately, there'd been some people right at the last minute who had kind of unfortunately couldn't make it. One person was very kind enough to let the person running the actual tournament that they weren't going to make it. Others two just were a no-show, which was a bit nasty, a bit mean. Maybe we'll have a little conversation about a talk about that on another episode about how to prepare and what you should do to get ready for a tournament, and whether you're running it or you're attending it. But yeah, so there was a lot of kind of long days of long plays and stuff like that. But Jack and I had a good last game, and it was good fun. And I think by the end of it, we were quite comfortable about just finishing. I don't know about you two, and you've just mentioned it there, Chris, with like getting a bit of brain drain at the end of a really long day or a really long tournament. It does kind of get to you, and you think, "Oof, that's been a long old day." Once you've played your final game. So, but I had a fun time. So, just do you want me to give you my final score of the
Yeah, go on.
So the number one team scored 101 to win the game, to win the tournament, and it was a gnome team as well. So that was an interesting one. My score was I thought a respectable 1, which kind of gives me the honor of the wooden spoon. Oh, you've got one too.
Oh, look at these people.
So New Dice Please has successfully held on to the wooden spoon.
Say what you want about our podcast, but our podcast is comfortably the worst performing at the Subterranean Showcase 2 years in a row. If we're nothing else, this is us.
Just for those listeners who are not watching this, so Tom is holding up the wooden spoon trophy for coming last this year. Chris is replicating that gesture by showing his wooden spoon trophy from 2023. So I know what I've got to do for 2025 then, in that case, gentlemen, to complete the hat trick, I assume.
Yeah, we'll pick your team.
Yeah, one last thing from me is congratulations to Justin for a fantastic tournament, really well attended. Free teas and coffees, which is never a bad thing. We had tournament bingo as well, which was good fun. And also just a bit of special shout out to Tim Krause, who was over from Germany on a business trip in London and took a train all the way to sunny Suffolk, hop on a taxi through the wilds of Ipswich to come and join us. Great to meet you, Tim, and hopefully we'll meet up with you soon, and maybe if you wish to, you're more than welcome on the podcast.
I tell you what, he's throwing out these invitations, isn't he? Tonight, he's made lots of friends.
We're not going to need to be here in a few weeks. It's going to be. It's not going to be New Dice Please. It's going to be Tom and Friends.
Okay, so Chris, Tom's made new friends. He's had a good time. He's consistent. He's only 100 points off the leader, so he's got a fighting chance. He's obviously drunk himself stupid on all the free tea and coffee, so that's something we need to be mindful of next time as well. How was your match 3, Chris? I can see the smile on his little face already. He's been waiting to tell us this one, viewers.
Match 3 went much better. Match 3 was against Rob Nichols. Hi, Rob, with his Norse team. It was a 3-0 win for the Ducks in that game. To his credit, he said at the beginning of the game that he hadn't played much Blood Bowl. It wasn't, he hadn't played loads and loads of games. And he had chosen a Norse team. And I think throughout the day, and I don't know about other games, probably he was used to the Ulfwerners being the kind of strongest players on the field and being able to control the field in somewhat. So, 6 Saurus and a Croxagore is a bit of a bit of a feat to kind of then come up against. So, he started well, got the ball down the field. Within turn 1, I think it was, he had casualtied the Croxagore, and I had to use my APOC straight away to save them on turn 1, and bring them back later on. So yeah, it was yeah. I think maybe it was a kind of a case of experience at that point, but also I think, like you said, Tom, game 3 of a tournament is always quite tough because you have had a full day of concentrating. You've normally been up early. It is a long day, and I think it is easier to kind of fall into some mistakes for that last game. So. Yeah, I was really happy to come away with an unbeaten day. Was great. I was not expecting an unbeaten day. I was expecting win, draw, loss. And after drawing 2 games, I thought I could play. After 2 draws, you could end up playing someone who should have won twice and be on the top table. You could play someone who should have lost twice and end up in the spoon match, and you could play anyone in between. So I thought I was going to have draw, loss. I thought I was going to, not get very lucky in that last draw, but it was a good fun game. It was a good contest, and it felt really good to end on a win, end unbeaten, up there with one of my best tournament performances. So I was really, really pleased.
Well done.
Thank you.
Very good, sir. Very good. Flying the flag of NDP. A beautiful thing to 3. So, Tom, a consistent day. Chris, an improving day throughout the from what sounds like a very, very long but very enjoyable game today. Out of 10, how would you rate the venues? Tom, you've got free tea, you've got free coffee, you've got Justin and his encyclopedic brain that we're all too very familiar with.
Yes. I'd rate it 10. It's a really good event. It's just a hall. It could hold quite a few more people. So I don't know if people are interested for next year. It's probably you'll look out for it. It'll be on the Talk Fantasy website. Once I get to know where it is, I'll promote it on there. Equally free parking as well, so really easy to get to, and just everyone was in a really good friendly mood as well. So yeah, definitely worth going.
The website is Talk Fantasy Football, just in case somebody Googles Talk Fantasy and finds anything different.
Oh, Tom, have you been looking at those specialist sites for the discerning gentleman again?
I was just trying to compete with Chris and his piles of flesh and grinding in the middle of it.
So, and just 2 quick things, just a yes or a no. First question, yes or a no only. Don't have to say anything like that. Were the pitches portrait the right way round?
Yes.
Yes or no? Yes or no? That's fine. And were there any loom bands present? Yes or no?
Yes.
Oh, for God's sake. Chris, which way were the pitches? Were they the right way? Were they portraits?
Portrait.
And were there any loom bands present?
I did not see a loom band.
That's what people need to hear. See, that's the sign of a quality caliber type of entertainment. Spectacular. Okay,
I haven't done so yet. So I just want to say, similar to Tom, the Like the venue, the organization for the event was incredible. A lot of the kind of extra kind of fluff and promotion they did around it with the theme was great. And a massive thank you to Danny and to the champ for all of their organisation on the day, all of the prep beforehand, letting us come and stream the events. So they were live on Twitch over the day, letting us come and do that. I was really grateful to both of them, so a big shout out and thank you to those guys.
Excellent. So just moving on to the last piece that we're going to discuss tonight then. What have you, as two fine, upstanding members of the Blood Bowl community, learned about yourselves as coaches? So Tom, you can complete the following phrase. I can, as a result of my weekend experience, and this is only relating to the Blood Bowl, I can be a better coach by...
remembering there are 16 turns.
What?
The reason behind it is that keep thinking that I've got, for example, I've got the werewolf, so I keep thinking, oh, I'll just leg it straight up the pitch, and that was my downfall. And a number of times I was just like, right,
Okay.
just grab the ball and leg it, and I'm like, no, this is literally turn one. Don't be stupid. Just take your time, assess, look at the pitch, look at how many turns there's left, and play the long game.
I honestly thought you were going to say something like, no, I'm going to simplify my skills list. I'm going to be like Chris and make new friends, or something like that. So, okay, remember, kids, it's 16 turns, unless you go into overtime, but not usually. Chris,
be more patient is a good shout, though. Be more patient is a good shout. I've changed my game a lot and been a lot more patient, and I think it's working out. So it's a good bit of advice.
Unless you're playing rats and then a 2-turn touchdown, it's rude not to. So, Chris,
you get 4 touchdowns in like the first half.
According to some urban myths, you do. Yeah. So, Mr. Chris Coe, yes, I can be, after my weekend experiences, this is a leading question, I can be a better Blood Bowl coach by
protecting my unreliable players more, or protecting against my unreliable players. I think there were a couple of instances in the first game and the second game where had I put the backup, had I moved some backup into place in case the Croxagore had failed its bonehead or failed its or not succeeded on its block, then I would have been in a better defensive position and not left as big a gap. I think sometimes I forget that the Croxagore, while it's got the same movement and strength of the Saurus, if it boneheads and you've left the normal gaps you've left a massive hole in the pitch. So I think that's probably it. Just like, I've got more patient. I'm very happy I've got more patient. I now need to just think that Croxagore, it can be unreliable. So just committing a player to kind of keep an eye on it in a defensive situation is not going to hurt. And especially at a tournament, that can be a skink, because that skink can block a route. Even if it's going to die, it's going to regen. So, defensively, remember to cover that.
I'm pleasantly and slightly ominous, but I am very, very pleased and very surprised there as well, in terms of, Tom, you've talked about there being more patient, embracing the inner Blood Bowl zen, and Chris, you've talked about risk mitigation. What happened to the 2 people I left for 1 week last week? Where have they gone?
We're changed people. We meditate.
It's the wooden spoon. It changes you.
It does. It does change.
It does,
you.
does it?
It does.
I'll have to look at
You'll
that.
You'll find out next year.
I look forward to it, and I wholeheartedly embrace the experience. So both tournaments this weekend, the Subterranean and StrangleBowl, had special players. Tom, did you take the special player? Would you have taken the special player? Give us a quick flavour of what it was all about for you.
I did not take the special player, and in fact, I didn't play against anyone who did take the special player. The special player was called Smeagol, because obviously it was based around a Subterranean. Their stats are movement 5, strength 1, edge 3, passing 5, AV 6. With the skills dodge, right stuff, sidestep, stunty, titchy, loner 5+, animosity to all. Okay, it could be taken for 50k. And the special rule was we wants it precious. Okay, so once per match, Smeagol may attempt to steal the ball from the opposition ball carrier when entering one of their tackle zones. You roll a d6. On a 5+, he successfully gains the ball. On a 2 and a 4, the ball is not stolen. And on a 1, Smeagol enters a trance of greed, suffering the effects of being targeted by hypnogaze, and loses his tackle zones. So that was the player. As I say, I did not take him, and I didn't play anyone who did. I don't know whether it was the fact that it's strength 1 and it's a 1 per match special rule for 50k, kind of made people think maybe not. And just to give it a complete kind of overview, it was a 1.15 kind of amount for your team value on gold. So
Can I just thank you, Tom? Could I just point out, just to save Justin from any sort of legal proceedings, and before the Weta Workshop and the Tolkien Estate lawyers come crashing down on him, Smeagol is Smeaghoul, not as in Smeagol, based on the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Tolkien lawyers, back off.
says Chris Coe of Woodbridge.
He's feeling a bit punchy after his last victory.
Ruthless, isn't he? He's changed. This is what it does to him. So, Chris, tell us about the StrangleBowl special character.
Yes, the champ. The champ was the special character. So slightly different. You did not choose whether to take the champ or not. The champ played for your side for one half, and your opponent's side for the other half. So you always had access to the champ for one half of the game.
And does that mean you had 12, or you still had 11 players on the pitch?
They were an additional player for that half.
Okay.
So
wow.
The champ was. It's determined by who loses the coin toss to see who kicks. They choose whether they start with the champ or finish with the champ. Champ stats: movement 5, strength 3, edge 4, passing 5, armor 9. Skills: armbar, brawler, dirty player +1, loner +3, thick skull, and strangle. Strangle is effectively stab with mighty blow. If it creates a knockout or a casualty, the player goes straight into the reserves box. They don't get long-term hurt. And it was a really fun extra player. It was really good for me because I could use it. I could sit it in front of a tree and let the champ get smacked down so as to save a Saurus. I could save a skink. I could leave a skink on the bench for the first half and have the champ instead. So really, really helpful. It was a fun kind of gimmick. Like there was a prize at the end of the day for the most strangles. I believe there was something like 315 strangles all day over all of the games, which is great. It was a nice little kind of addition. It went with the whole kind of theme of the day. I think it's a really good star player, and there were some miniatures available that you could buy of the star player, and I have bought one ready to paint that I can paint up as the champ. So it was really good fun, and I liked the fact that that it wasn't something that you chose. You had it for a half, your opponent had it for a half, and how you used it was up to you. And that added kind of a fun level to each game.
Excellent. Just a yes or a no, very quick answer. Would you go with for 2 questions? Actually, I'm going to expand upon this to give the audience what they like: more Tom, more Chris. Just a yes or a no. Are you planning to go to next year's equivalent tournament? Tom?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Would you recommend to any other Blood Bowl players out there to get themselves along to that respective tournament? Tom?
That's a difficult one.
Just a yes or a no. Just a yes or a no. That's all the rule. That's all it was. It really
More
wasn't hard.
players, I'm going to
Wow,
lose
you
again.
angered him so quickly by not saying just yes or no.
Yes, I would. Of course, I would.
No, that's not even a yes.
Yes.
We'll start again. I'll ask you again. Tom, yes or no, would you recommend to any other Blood Bowl coach to get themselves along to this tournament next year?
Yes.
Hallelujah. Chris, yes or no? Would you recommend to any other Blood Bowl coach to get themselves along to that tournament next year?
Yes.
Excellent.
What I would ask if both Justin and Danny are listening, there were, I think, 5 different tournaments happening throughout the country, all quite big tournaments on this day. Just for my own selfishness, if the 2 that were happening on that day that I wanted to go to were the Subterranean and the and StrangleBowl. So if you guys could just have a little chat and put them on different weekends so I can go to both, I'd really appreciate it.
It's now,
Sure.
yeah.
There's no I in Team Chris, just about me. Okay, thank you very much then, gentlemen. That's very interesting. Glad you had both good weekends, even though the results were maybe slightly different. I can still see the smiles on both your happy little faces, which is what it's all about. Chris, if people want to get hold of us, I'm going to switch this way, see if you remember what I say. Chris, if people want to get hold of us, comment on anything they've heard today, or generally just share with us their Blood Bowl experiences and anecdotes, how can they do that?
Oh, this feels backwards. This feels awful. If you want to get in touch with us, tell us about your tournament experiences, you can email us at newdiceplease@gmail.com. That's newdiceplease@gmail.com. All one word, all lowercase. Hey, Tom, where else can they find us?
Yep. So we are on the socials. So you can get us on Instagram, New Dice Please, where you can subscribe. We're posting a bit more on there. If you've got any fantastic paintings or good kind of news from other tournaments that you think we should attend, let us know there. You can also let us know via email. That's newdiceplease@gmail.com. We're also on YouTube under New Dice Please, and also Blood Bowl Live on that side of things. Or you can also get us on all the podcast channels, especially for Scott, in particular, Spotify and also Amazon.
Wow, perfect.
Just if I may, there,
scared
Chris,
now.
as well.
I'm scared of putting a foot wrong here now.
Yeah, I know. I feel like we've riled him. I'm a little bit worried.
I know.
1 week away, just one. Just a quick call out to everybody we've mentioned there on today's podcast, to Justin and Smeagol, Danny and the Champ, to Chris, to Mike, to Rob, to Jack, to Tim, to whoever you are. If you beat Thomas by playing Snotlings, and if you beat him at Shambling Undead, let us know who you are. Let us know your names and your addresses. Send them into the newdiceplease@gmail.com. And you never know, we might get round to creating some sort of prize draw. We'll put your names in a hat, and then we'll send the winner maybe a set of dice or stuff, maybe, if we can be bothered. You never know.
Dice. That was a quick one to Chris. Did you hand out any dice? Did you hand out any stickers?
Every opponent got 2 Ducks dice, 2 NDP dice, and a sticker and a beer mat.
Wow, 4 dice and a beer mat and a sticker. We're just absolutely fools for merch.
What more do you want?
This is where it is. Excellent.
Before we close the podcast off, a quick apology from me. I said that A Tale of Two Cities was a Shakespeare thing. No, it's not. It's Charles Dickens. So apologies for that. If anyone comments to say it was in the comments of the podcast that it was Charles Dickens and not Shakespeare, then all you're doing is outing yourself, have not made it to the end. So that's all you've done, but thank you in advance. I don't know, it will either be that or it's going to be pie fillings and toppings that get the most comments at the end of this. So, you know, that's the way it goes. Scott, thank you very much for being here this week. Tom, thank you very much. Everybody else, thank you very much for listening. We have been New Dice Please, and we will see you next time.